Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How are you doing, Sleeping Warrior? Good to have you.
Good morning. I'm just reading chat already. Nick with Noel is asking how many micro breakdowns will you have today? Do you want to address Nick?
Me? Micro breakdowns? I love this show. Yeah. This is good fun. On the contrary,
Nick, you've got Noel. Did you see Al K's channel earlier on?
Yeah, he didn't catch anything, did he? Which is a shame, but, you know, kudos, Al K. You know, you're out there doing it. You are far from a keyboard warrior. Good for you, mate.
Ranty and I were in St. Bees yesterday. We went up in the car for the day and took the dogs. The intention was to spend all day on the beach, dicking around, you know, not really doing anything specific, just to spend the time there because it was a nice day. But it was absolutely freezing. Sunny, bright, clear, freezing. Absolutely Baltic. The wind chill factor was so cold, it was unreal. Anyway, the dogs loved it. Everything was great. While we were mooching around, sees this figure on the top of Miles' little hill. And I'm looking at this bloke and I'm thinking, that's got to be either Miles or Al Key. So I says to Ranty, I says, come on, let's go right the way round, approach him from behind, see if we can startle the bastard. Sorry. But anyway, we walked all the way around, the long way around, so he couldn't see us approaching. And he clocks us as we get to about maybe, yo, Arwin.
Hey, Riley.
Yo.
Hey.
Hello, Nathan. Good morning.
Morning.
So he clocks us as we're approaching from behind, and I get about maybe 20 meters away, and he sees me, he looks at me square in the face. He's wearing sunglasses, big, thick, woolly coat, hat on, gloves. Couldn't really see anything of his face to know who he was. I just saw this figure because he was covered. Anyway, as we get closer, I thought it's either Al K or Miles. I thought I'm going to speak and find out who he is because obviously Al K's Scottish and Miles has got this like different accent, Scarborough kind of northeastern kind of northern is the word I would use. Anyway, I approached him and I spoke to him and I asked him a really direct question that required a direct answer. Yeah, I started having this massive fit, like couldn't control his breathing, and he was hyperventilating, and it was funny because he didn't really want to like speak because he knew that I would recognize his voice directly, and obviously he ended up having to speak because I wasn't letting this guy go without a speech. You know, I wanted to hear words, and obviously he gave the game away, and in the end we went for a coffee and had a chat about flat Earth and stuff, but. It was good to see him there, and it was good to see him fretting a little bit, thinking that he might end up in a bit of a fight situation, 2v1 or whatever, because he was definitely panicking. But once we sat down and had a brew, he was fine. But it was good because, it was bad, really. We went for the same reason he went. We checked the weather forecast, saw that it was going to be a clear day, and we went up there hoping to do stuff. But when we got there, it was misty, exactly as this video showed this morning. And couldn't even see the island of Isle of Man, let alone do any observations on it. It was just gone, which was not there. It was just behind a wall of mist, which obviously is curvature of the Earth, but actually in real world, it was just mist. It was interesting. It's very interesting. And Squizzo says, I'm sure that was bollocks. No, you can ask Adam in chat. He will acknowledge that we were in fact there. And if you check his video, Al K on his channel, you'll see a comment there from it. Karen Gilland.
He said it was interesting because you ended up in the similar conversation that you'd have if he was on this show. but with just a little bit less name calling. Hi, new guest. How you doing? Karen, how you doing? Can you say hello?
Good.
Karen, please turn off your regular YouTube volume. You're feedbacking.
Need to mute whatever you've
Turn
got
off the
playing.
TV. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, hey,
bye-bye,
Anthony,
Karen.
I was wondering, when you met LK and you asked him a direct question, was it kind of like a globe regurgitation reflex, like a cat kind of trying to puke back up a ball of hair?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was like. It was like having this hyperventilation fit. It was like he was having some kind of seizure or something. Because he just didn't want to speak. He was like, I don't want to reveal myself, because he's doxing himself, isn't he, effectively? And he didn't want to speak to me, and no matter what, he didn't want to speak. So I made him speak. I wasn't letting him get away with not speaking. I wanted to know, was it Alk or was it Miles? And it was Alk. And it was great to confront him, because the moment he must have had palpitations when he saw me approaching. He must have thought, "Oh no way! There's two of them here, and I'm on my own. I've got my cameras, I've got my tripods."
And he can't basically leave.
Yeah, he couldn't really leave. No,
There.
he had to pack all this stuff up. So then he had to face it. He had to face his demon or whatever. So it was good to confront him, and in the end, he realised that it was all good. We bought him dinner. He got a bacon butty and a chocolate summit for dessert, and then 2 cups of coffee, and we were all friends, and it was all good. We all had a handshake and laughed at each other and called each other names and stuff, and then that was it. Then we went off because it was so cold. We realised that the weather wasn't getting any better. So
Well, that's really awesome that he eventually chose to be human.
yeah, he was human. I mean, I've seen all the comments in chat.
All of these
from
people
him.
are human.
Pardon?
They're all human. People are people. None of these people are actually monsters or anything of the sort. They're just people.
Yeah. No, but I mean, you can like choose to stay like a troll and not stop doing that.
Well,
But he chose to be human. He just gave up that attitude and chose to be a normal guy, basically, and that's good. It's good to hear.
I see what you mean. He's chosen not to be a keyboard warrior. Yes, I'll agree with that.
I got him to agree that he would measure the step. He's got this little he's got this thing from Amazon that was 40 quid. And I did consider buying it myself, but I thought for 40 quid, I don't actually need to measure this step from this distance at 40 quid when I've got a tape measure and I've got an angle. So I can apply basic trigonometry to get the angle that I wanted, or to get the measurement I wanted, without having to pay 40 quid to get the same measurement. And I thought, well, I'm not paying the 40 quid, but he did have it. And I said, well, okay. I said, do me a favor. I said, for all the angst and all that, I said, will you measure that step that Miles was at, where you had your pole at the bottom on the manual cover? And I explained it in really simple, straightforward English. And I said, that's what I want you to do. Will you do it? And he agreed. And I said, right. I said, and make sure you record it and prove it, and it's all contemporaneous so that it can't be added afterwards. I said, make sure you don't miss out stuff that's important, and show us what you see on the screen. And he's going to come back with about 20.5 feet from above the man cover to where he was stood, where Miles was stood at the top. That's what he's going to come back with. And if he does, then it's not going to support Miles. If he doesn't, and it's like 26 feet, then obviously I've done something wrong or lied. Well, let's see what he comes back with. It's going to be really interesting. If there'd have been an ice cream van there, I'd have bought him 2 ice creams, and then I'd have had 2 ice creams, and then we'd have both had. There would have actually been 4 ice creams.
You want ice cream in this weather?
Oh, it's freezing. Honestly, the wind chill factor was just bitter. So bitter. I literally got in the car, and the car wasn't warm, engine was not running, and I could feel my face was burning. You know what I mean? It was that cold that getting in the car was too warm. It was freezing. Right. And it was weird as well, because the little cafe on the side, it was completely rammed. There wasn't a single spare seat. We had to sit outside in the shade, drinking our coffee and stuff. And it was absolutely freezing.
Like that when I was there, when I went to see my wife in the cafe, I thought, oh, it'll just be, I'll walk in, it'll be her on her own with a cup of tea. And it was packed. There was no one around. It didn't seem like there was many cars in the car park, but the cafe was absolutely packed.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. We went in there and I couldn't even get a seat. We had to go outside on a cold winter's day. I mean, it was lovely and sunny, but it was bitter. And obviously, Al's got like, it was like that scene out of Dumb and Dumber where they get off the motorbike and they both got frozen snot trails down the top lip. It's like that. You go outside and my nose started running and, oh, it's just bitter. Absolutely bitter.
So this is it. This is what we've got to talk about because neither you or LK got anything contentious. So there's no arguing. There's no, look at what I've seen. Why haven't you seen this? Where's the curvature? None of that. It's just like, wow, it was cold. But we had a chat about flat Earth in a cafe.
It honestly, it was misty, right? It was brilliantly clear where we were, but obviously in the distance where we wanted to see, it wasn't as clear. So we couldn't actually see anything. You couldn't even see the peaks of the mountains. It was that misty. But where we were, it was perfect. And it was unbelievable how different the weather forecast, or how different the local weather was there to here, because we had it glorious.
Yeah, they've got their own weather system, haven't they, over the Isle of Man?
Pardon? Yeah, they do,
their
yeah.
own weather system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't stand to reason that a clear day at St Bees will give you a clear day in the Isle of Man, but obviously you can but try. Now, I know Ranty went up to the top of... did he actually go up? He said he was going to go up. Did he actually attempt it?
No, what we said was we'll go up to the road up to Regiment where Miles Delia Davis got his telescope out, and if we can see the Isle of Man from there, then I would say it's worth going. But if we can't see the Isle of Man from there, there's absolutely no point in going because you're not going to see it. Anyway, we went up there, couldn't see it. So I said, Ranty, don't go up there. I said, he didn't have his phone on him, right? And I said, I'm not coming with you because it's a waste of time. I said, I'm not going to go up there to freeze, to get nothing. It's not worth it. I said, but you can't go up on your own because you with no phone. If you slip, trip, or fall, how is anyone going to know that you're there? Anyway, in the end, he saw sense and didn't go up.
Fair enough. At least you tried, though. Same as LK, you know, kudos to you too. You know, both you and Ranty, because you've gone up and you've tried. What you got there, Arwin?
It's just every time you guys mention that you actually went to St. Bees, there's something specific I have to think about. I don't know if I'm allowed to play this.
No, don't, because I'll just get a copyright strike. But yeah, I've put the picture up one frame for a moment so that people know exactly what you're talking about, but you don't need to play it for people to know.
Nicolas Cage.
Leave it. Don't play it, but I'll just put it on your screen again so people know what you're talking about.
Not the bees. Not the bees.
Not the bees.
Yep. It's hilarious that you do it in St. Bees. It's just, it's one of those things. Anyway.
Amazing how everyone says that this is dull, not interesting, and yet LK and Miles Davis are consistently going back. You and Ranty are consistently going back. There's more observations coming of the Isle of Man from different directions and different vantage points from other random people. It's like, yeah, this is really boring. I can see how everyone's lost interest. Shout out to the 71 people watching.
The thing is, he said to me that he wasn't really interested in the debate side of it anymore. I'm like, well, what are you doing here then? I mean, there's only one reason why you would go to St. Bees at the minute. Flip my thing on screen, mate. When we were walking back to the car, we went via Miles's little stand and we found this. And I thought, no way, somebody else has been here as well.
They've all cottoned on to what's going on. Maybe it was Al K. He's figured it out. That's what it is. It's Al. He was there. Who else could it be?
I actually thought it was Miles himself doing it for a bit of, for self-pity reasons.
Oh,
so
I
he
see.
can claim he's being
Sympathy
bullied.
card.
I saw he done a bullying video.
That would be weird.
I saw he did a bullying video, and I thought, well, don't tell lies, and we won't call you a bully. We won't call you names.
Yeah, you don't want to spread these Miles Delia Davis memes too far, because like that graffiti, obviously people are going to pick up on it, and they're going to take matters into their own hands. So probably best not to encourage them too much about Miles Delia Davis.
I thought it was funny. I walked past and I was like, Ranty, look at that. But me and LK and Ranty were all there together, and I thought, well, it must be Miles himself because he was the only one that was outstanding.
So you didn't get a thing then? Not a single shot was taken?
Nothing. Nothing. Well, there was nothing to see. Couldn't see it. It's bizarre how such a clear day here, and you can't even see the massive island with mountains and everything in the background at just 30 miles away on a really clear day. Couldn't see it.
Curve of the Earth, man.
Bizarre.
So there was like a mist in the way or something.
Yeah, missed.
Earth curve.
It was opacity
Well, you-
of the atmosphere,
you
right?
really-
But ballers would have to argue that it was refraction on the day, bending the whole island behind the curve of the Earth.
Mhm. I still would have filmed it actually, just as a contrast, just to show.
Nothing to see though. You just literally, I've been there when it's been, you know, all washed out by the clouds, and there's literally what you're looking at is the beach and the ocean and nothing else. You know, the sky. That's it.
It
There's
could
nothing to
still be
see.
interesting to see basically where the refraction zone starts and then how everything's missing behind there, and then later compare it to a much clearer day, just to put it as a contrast.
Maybe.
Well, I said to Al, do you not think it's interesting how much there was captured on that composite picture? Forget the merits of the picture. I mean, the level of the detail and the visibility that was present on that day, compared to what we're looking at now on a really clear, crisp winter's day, with very little refractive effects. Yet we couldn't even see the island. It was bizarre, and he had to agree that it was quite stark. The difference between the two was quite stark. It was just so cold, man. Honest to God, it wasn't fun. But yeah, that cafe was completely full. Absolutely full.
I know what happened. The mist, negated the non-standard refraction, so the curvature finally became literally visible again.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like
as
the
the sun
opposite
was-
to the way
as
you'd
the sun
think,
was
isn't
kind
it? You'd think clear day would be less effects of refraction and a misty day would have more effects. But, you know, it just seems like we get the contrasting view to what Soundly gets. He gets a bit of fog and gets beautiful refraction. I mean, curvature.
Yeah. It's kind of like when the sun is in the position that you've got on screen now, that sunset picture that you've got. When the sun got that low on the horizon that you could see, I'm sure you'd be able to see the silhouette of it in the background. But we weren't there late enough to be able to do that.
Oh, you can. I've definitely seen some absolutely amazing pictures of the Isle of Man in the sunset. You know, it looks glorious from St. Bees because the sunset's right behind it.
What was the other thing? There was a second thing I wanted to mention as well. Miles doing that, Alk doing that. There was one other thing. It'll come back to me. But it was interesting to see him though, because the most impressive part of it was his initial reaction when he clocked that we were approaching, and he recognized me obviously straight away. I got a big heavy set beard. He knew me, my red trainers. He's not getting past me red trainers. So he obviously recognized me immediately, turned his back to me, and then started palpitating. And then literally, when I spoke to him, it was like some kind of seizure thing, something out of Only Fools and Horses or something. It was like, is he going to die? It was so uncomfortable. It was just, it must have been awful for him for the first minute. But then after that, I shook his hand, and he felt fine. Well, we agreed to disagree on numerous things. Oh, and he took issue with why I took issue with Miles with regards to the 40 feet claim that Miles made when he was stood at the point that we were talking to him at. And basically he doesn't think that it's important that Miles, quote, misspoke with regards to the claim that he was 40 feet above actual water, because when he started to explain the maths using mean sea level and adjusting for the tide, when I pointed out to him that that's not referencing actually above the water the way he emphasized in his video, he's actually emphasizing above the actual water and didn't produce any evidence to show us what the water actually was at the time. And he really diluted that into something insignificant. And I was like, no, if I make a mistake like that, you guys use that to discredit the whole video. But when Miles does it, it's diluted into like, it's just a minor mistake. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm like, no.
Miles worse than that. You know, Google gets it wrong and they discredit you. You know, it's the worst kind of straw man there is.
Yeah. Somebody in chat called Nunya Business. I don't know who they're talking to, but they're saying, debate me, you fools. Scared? Talking absolute rubbish.
The link in the info box, click the link, make sure you mute your watch page before you join. The link is open to the public. Anyone can join. Simply mute your watch page before you do so. Please don't swear if you join. Say a hello when you do join so we know you're not here just to kick everyone out of the show.
None your business. Join. Let's hear what you've got to say. Bring some good evidence with you as well. Oh, and the other thing that we were talking about that I found interesting was that when we were talking about standard refraction according to the standard refraction calculator on Megaflump's website. The 76R is the calculation, the approximate calculation that he applies, and it yields around about 15% of an adjustment, which is by anyone's standards is not
15 or
consistent
23, depending on how you see the maths.
Sure.
You've got to disclaim that now. Now I've said that. Come on.
By the way, Nick was laughing at me for my lack of simple arithmetic in yesterday's chat. And if you go back to that point where the calculator was on screen, Nick also made a mistake on the simple arithmetic, yet whilst laughing at me making a mistake on the simple arithmetic. So, Nick, you've got no L. But anyway, what I was trying to say was the standard refraction is basically, it's a continuous curve going down, right? And the argument that ballers usually have is that, well, it just goes down less. And I'm like, yeah, but it still goes down. Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light shows that light bends in all directions, including up. Yeah, that's not calculated as part of the maths. And then obviously, it's only a guide, right? But it's still going down. What about when the light bends up in the refractive atmosphere that we're in? And that's not calculated at all. So it's only ever 50% correct if it's correct at all. Now, what I said to him was, shouldn't the maths that best represents the Fermat's principle on the equation of the trajectory of light, shouldn't it be plus or minus 76R if that's the case, not just minusing it off, or minusing it off the refracted hidden value? Shouldn't it be plus or minus the refractive hidden value to make it somewhat fair? Because light also bends up equally as much as it bends down, according to the principle. And he was looking at me with it like I had a foreign head, and I'm like, what? And he was like, 76R is just an approximation. I said, I don't care what it's just an approximation of. I'm asking you, do you agree that plus or minus would reflect the part where it goes up as well as down? He didn't understand it at all. I mean, do you get my point, Nath?
Of course. It bends up, it bends down, it bends left, it bends right. It's bending in more severe curves when it's coming from the left-hand side of the globe, from a further distance. It's doing all sorts of different directions, obviously. If it's bending around a curve, the curve isn't uniform in one direction from front to back. You know, far from it. Oh, we lost Anthony.
Oh.
No, maybe not. But yeah, it's uniform. It's in their orthographic view, or the orthographic view that was represented yesterday. You know, when he showed the diagram, he's got the straight lines coming up the curve of the Earth, and according to Rumpus's maths, it only works in the vertical plane. That's how they calculate the refraction. One plane only. It's like, well, the curve goes in all directions. Shouldn't it apply in all sorts of different directions? Especially when you have to factor in the fact that the camera's curving as well. So it's seeing these light rays come in different angles to the camera. So there's all sorts of crap that you have to account for.
Yeah, if you just present my screen a sec, Nath.
Yep.
Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light tells us that light will bend through the atmosphere in all directions, up, down, left, and right. So really, what this formula should be with quote standard refraction is before you get this 76R, there should be a plus or minus 76R. That would then allow for the refraction to do what we see. And of course, Soundly showed refraction on his little Tensis Bayou experiment, where he put 8 lamps over 8 stanchions, and over the distance of the 8 miles, or just under 8 miles that he was working on, it showed that all the lights were dancing above and below a fixed horizontal plane, or a fixed, I think we should call it what we should call in Rumpus's language is a deduced line. You just put a fixed line across all the lights and join them all up dot to dot style, and you can watch over the time-lapse photography that Soundly took that all the lights will dance up and down. So if we were to put literally a plus or minus before this 76R, that would then be true, right? Because you would have plus or minus 76R to reflect the light bending up as well as bending down. However, if you do that, that means that this value then wildly fluctuates and varies. Ian Mattison's got warm nuts, apparently, Nath.
Yeah, and you got £2.
Thank you for the super chat, Ian Matheson. I'd like to call Vane Veen a moron.
So, really, because I know Mick West does watch this, and if he doesn't watch it live, he watches it in playback. So what I'm going to request, Mr. West, is if you're really going to make this match Fermat's principles on the trajectory of light, you should at least do this. Let's get paint up. Because to be honest, Alkay just didn't get it yesterday. He just simply didn't get it because he just couldn't think. It wasn't going in for him. It wasn't working. So I realized that this point was being lost at that exact moment. But in this little bit here, so I put like a little arrow there, and then I put my line in going right out here, and then you need the following characters, Michael. So we'll have plus or minus. We'll go 7, 6. That's what it should be. See that? I mean, that makes perfect logical sense because we know that light bends up as well as down, soundly shows it. Yet the calculation simply allows for a continuous going down, but really it should be a plus or minus 76R. Then the standard refraction maths it goes equally subject to science. And then obviously things that we're seeing on the Isle of Man, suddenly they can go the opposite way. So oops, I was just going to do the curve calcs then. So if I go back to my screen.
So it's just limiting it to a negligible variant of about 40% in some places.
Sure. I mean, if we go with 31 miles at 100 feet, just for example, if you had a plus or minus 76R, you would then have a band of refraction values that it would fall in between. So the refracted hidden would be, well, if it's plus 76R, it would be one value. If it was minus 76R, it would be another value. So therefore, your hidden should be according to what this is, blah, blah, blah. And it would give you two values, and then it would be fair. But for some reason, it only gives a continuous arc going down. And we know that light doesn't do that. So really, Mick, if you're watching, and if anybody can pass the message on to him, we really need it to be plus or minus 76R, and for the maths to give us a gradient between the two, and that's where we should be looking at the effects of refraction if you want to apply Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light. But they apply Snell's law, which is another argument in itself, but Snell's law doesn't even apply. They argue it does because it's an isotropic variable medium. It's nonsense. Snell's law doesn't, it's Fermat's principle on the trajectory of light. That is the law, because that's to do with the individual traces of light, the individual traces of light as it hits your eye. This is what we need, Michael, plus or minus 76R. And even then, 76R is not a negligible figure, because let's just do the maths. A negligible figure, right? 7 divided by 6 gives you 16 or so. So it's working on around about 16%, right? But that's not satisfying the definition of the meaning of the word negligible. Really, negligible would be a value that would, in my assertion, would be, say, 47 divided by 52. That's going to give you a value. That's about the same. So let's do 47 divided by 49. There we go. That's just under, there we go. So we'll do 47 divided by 48 gives us, that's more like negligible. It's like 2.1%. That would be negligible because it's less than 5 for statistical values or statistical significance. They use 5% as anything below 5% is statistically insignificant. Well, anything below a value of 5%, I would argue, would be negligible.
0.2%.
Obviously,
I think technically insignificance is below 1% difference.
No, 5. Anything below 5% on statistical significance is deemed insignificant.
Okay.
And I think that 16%
insignificant
is
and
not
negligible are different terms, though, aren't they? Negligible is what the paper that was published on the MIT website and from some Spanish university said. It was negligible, not insignificant.
That was my second point. You've just said that. This document doesn't exist online anymore. This is the documents that Mick West gave to me, and he said, I strongly suggest that you read this because it blah, blah, blah. And I read this. The first time I read it, I didn't understand most of it. Second time I read it, I understood more of it. I realized what they were doing. And then the third time I read it with the critical analysis that is deemed when you are doing some element of scientific research. And fundamentally, they talk about lots of different things that like atmospheric effects, such as Fata Morganas, the Nova Zembla mirage, which is quite interesting. They talk about lots of stuff in here, and it's all relevant to what we're observing in flat Earth, of course, because we see stuff that is like it's subject to optical distortion. That's the best way to describe it. But in this document, Mick wasn't really expecting me to spot this, and they hate it because I cite it all the time. But if I go back to the home, now bear in mind this document doesn't exist anymore. It's been removed, right? Thankfully, I still have a copy, but it's survived since January 2006. It's not gone missing. But when we start citing it, because it talks about Fermat's principle, basically, Fermat's principle yields the physically based description of the light path through a non-homogeneous medium with a continuously varying index of refraction coupled with a fast, efficient numerical resolution method, which is what they talk about in this paper. But of course, in this paper, and I cite it all the time, under standard conditions or standard circumstances, the effects are negligible. So when we go back to the mathematics that he uses, 7 divided by 6, 16% roughly, that's not negligible. Really, it should be like 47 divided by 48, I think it was. There you go. That would be negligible because it's less than 5, in my opinion, in my view, my belief. This is less than 5%, therefore it's negligible. And I would say 5% is still high, still too high. Negligible really is like 2%. That would make a variance of 2% on the maths. However, Mick, it should be plus or minus your variable, not your 14% variable. Should be plus or minus the 2. So I don't know where this. I know where the 7/6R comes from, and I don't agree with it because we know it's negligible. And obviously, the maths that are presented on screen at 14% or so are not negligible, but this would be considered negligible. So, Mick, if you're watching, change it.
If you measured it on a flat plane and you're just using simple trig and straight lines, that effect could be described as negligible. But when you factor in that there's a drop, then obviously you're factoring in the drop versus your location and the amount of light bending up around a curve, it stops being negligible. But what we demonstrate on our picture, if we were to assume that the simple trig and straight line method that we measure it with on the flat plane is correct, then I would go as far as to say that the refraction is negligible. Would you agree, Anthony?
Yeah. Because Rancy's been up and taken the same image that I've taken, and he's repeated the experiment results, got the same results, bar a couple of pixels variation. That, in my opinion, is negligible. However, we are not seeing the horizon engulf and swallow and then drop down behind the curvature, the lighthouse. No, the horizon's in the same place. The lighthouse just looks a couple of pixels slightly different. That is negligible. What we're talking about here is not negligible. 15% worth of movement. It's nonsense.
Yeah, well, the flat plane comparison to the curve, it's a much bigger difference. It's like an astronomical drop. Yeah, it's not nearly negligible. So it should be big differences. So any difference, like even 10%, should not matter to that argument, like whether it's a flat plane or if it's a ball, because there should be astronomical differences.
So this is a video that I made emphasizing the point of refraction. This is taken from Soundly's video on the Little Tensis Bayou. And all I did was I put in a straight line and look at the beginning of the refraction period that I'm looking at.
How you doing?
See that the light.
Hello.
No way, 2 years of lads here. This
Hello.
is it.
Good to have you.
Hey,
This is me talking to the lads. Well,
you made it.
yep. They're going to change my mind here, aren't you, lads?
Change your mind about what?
You're going to change my mind. The Earth's flat, isn't it?
No.
No, I've no intention of changing anybody's mind.
That was a good debate, lads.
You're welcome to believe whatever you choose. You have a choice.
Don't worry. No, I'm here. No, I mean, I'm here as a genuine believer. I want you to change my mind here. I want you to drop some evidence on me here. Some good evidence. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure, I'll do that right now for you. So there's an
Go
observation.
ahead, lad. So what's the crack with this picture then? What am I looking at here? A flat Earth? Is that it?
You
Is
asked
that
for
proof?
some evidence? Sorry, I'll just give it you.
The flat Earth.
I'll just give you that evidence that you asked for if you want convincing, as you say you do. So we
The
have
Earth is flat.
So we have an observation of the Isle of Man, and that observation has been modelled in 2 different fashions. One uses rather complicated and rather long-winded mathematics to account for a sphere horizon that is not curved and has no obstruction blocking our view. So you seem to be very, very crackly with your mic. You okay there? You fidgety or you okay?
No, I'm all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, when you model this observation, you have to account for the observation with lots of complicated refraction mathematics that seem to be self-contradictory. You can also model the exact same observation on a flat plane, and without factoring in anything to do with refraction, you can have the mathematics work out with simple trigonometry and straight lines. The simple way of doing things based on the simple fact that we see in straight lines, which is normal. However, if you want to accept that you don't see in straight lines and that you have refraction with very complex mathematics, bringing things back from behind a curve that we don't see, you are entitled to accept that, or you can accept that what we see is what we get. We do see in straight lines and it can be modelled on a flat plane as has been done.
So what are you saying? Are you saying because that horizon is flat, that the Earth's flat, because we see that horizon as a flat line, that's it?
No, it's
There's
mostly
twofold.
because we can see so far.
It's twofold.
Right.
Number one, the horizon should demonstrate a curve. It should be
Why?
curved.
Sorry, why should it? Why?
Because the Earth is a sphere, according to
Right.
you.
So then why are you debating that the Earth's flat for if you've just admitted it's a sphere? I don't
No.
understand what's going on here.
You're
I
not
said,
listening.
according to you, the Earth is a sphere. Therefore, this picture should demonstrate, but does not demonstrate, any curvature in the horizon.
Yeah, well, it makes perfect sense. If you were to zoom up on, say, a basketball 100,000 times, it would look flat, because it would, wouldn't it? No.
No,
Or do you think
it's
if
a
you were to
sphere.
zoom up 10,000 times in a basketball, you could see a curve? Is that what you're
I'll
saying?
say it one more time.
that-
I'll say it one more time. So on
Can
a
I answer
sphere 24,900 miles in circumference, from this altitude, in this picture, you should, but do not see curvature. It should be there, but it isn't.
Sorry, so it should be there because of why? Just explain to me again.
I'll say it again.
So why should it be?
I'll say it for a
specific
second time. You seem to be dense. Because you think you live on a sphere.
No, mate. I seem to be dense. What do you mean? I'm heavy?
Yes,
or
I've said
something?
it
Is that what you're
twice,
saying?
so I'll say it a third time for the people who are either dumb or deaf. You think you live on a sphere. The fact that you think you live on a sphere necessitates seeing a curvature from this altitude. We do not see that curvature.
If you're close enough, no, it doesn't. No, it clearly
No,
doesn't.
you're wrong. No, you actually
You're
do
wrong.
have to.
I mean, how is that a
No.
debate? You can't just debate someone and say you're wrong. That's not a debate.
No, listen.
So let's just get it
the
clear to
sphere
this
has a
guy who
specific
just thinks we're wrong,
circumference.
even though the mathematics is absolutely unequivocally set in stone. It is a sphere, according to you. It does have a circumference of 24,900 miles, according to you, and should have a visible curvature in the horizon, according to you and your mathematics for your
tell me,
sphere.
when did I say that the Earth is a sphere and that I
Why
say
do you
it's
keep interrupting me
29,000
before the
miles?
end of my
I didn't say that.
sentence? Why is it that I've said the same thing 3 times? You're now a denier, a pathetic denier, and you're telling me
Pathetic denier?
before I
Now you're
finish
just
my
insulting
sentence
me.
that I'm
See,
incorrect.
you won't even- you haven't
seem
even
to be
got the-
incapable of listening. So I will say it a 4th time because you continually interrupt me before I get to the end of my sentence. You have a belief that you live on a sphere. That sphere has mathematics which are set in stone. The mathematics of that sphere are that they are 24,900 miles around it in circumference. That dictates what should and should not be visible. You should see, but do not see, any left to right curvature in the image of the Isle of Man. You don't have to like it.
It's okay. What about the moon? Is the moon flat or is the moon real? What about the sun?
It's not related.
Sorry, did you not hear what I just said? Shall I repeat it a 5th time? Because you seem to be
You can
moving on
repeat
to
it
the
as many
moon.
times as you would like, sir. I'll be here listening.
Well, perhaps you'd like to
What I mean
address
is,
it. You asked me for proof, which you're now just a denier, and have denied the facts and denied the evidence I've presented you with, and are moving
Sorry,
on to the
what have I
moon.
denied? What have I denied? I have asked you, how do you know the Earth's 29,000 miles across?
I
Do you know what
don't.
That's
I
just
don't know
the
it's
circumference. I haven't denied that.
24,900
I'm
miles
asking
across.
you a question.
You believe it is, not me, you. I don't think it is 24,900 miles in circumference. That is the measurements
I haven't said
dictated.
that. I haven't
That
said-
is the measurements dictated by the heliocentric system and the sphere belief that you have. That is your belief and not mine.
No, I didn't say that though. You are assuming. You are assuming that I think the Earth is 24,900 miles. For all you know, I could think.
do you
No,
believe?
that's
Why
not
do-
what I'm assuming. I don't care what you believe. I don't give a crap what you think the Earth measures. That measurement is not dictated by you. You understand that?
No, but I didn't say that though. So I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't care what you say about the heliocentric measurements of the sphere you believe you live on. They dictate it, they being the people who made this bullshit up. It doesn't matter whether or not you accept it. It is their facts for their sphere that you think you live on. I don't care if you accept it or believe it. That's your bullshit. I don't care if you understand your
So
bullshit.
okay, so
it's
we
your
live
bullshit.
on a big flat. So how wide is the flat Earth then? How wide is the
No
is this
idea.
flat Earth?
Absolutely no
No
idea.
idea.
No.
No idea.
I may have an idea.
Okay, no idea. Good. How high does the sky? How high is there? Where's the dome?
No
How high
idea.
up is
Don't
that?
know if we do
There
have a
doesn't
dome.
need to be a dome.
Don't know.
There does need to be a dome. All right. What about the moon? Is the moon real?
Nope.
So I'll go back to my original question about this observation. You seem to be going on to several other points after asking for specific evidence. Are you going to address what I've just said to you or not?
Yes, sorry. Go ahead there. I'll address it. What do you want me to address?
I've said it 4 times.
Go ahead, brother. And repeat it for a 5th time. You seem to be good at it.
No problem at all. We have an observation of the Isle of Man. That particular observation has been modelled in 2 different ways. One way is on a sphere with very complex mathematics to account for a curve that we do not see. The curve that you think should be flat, but absolutely, unequivocally, should demonstrate a curve based on the heliocentric mathematics of the curve you believe you live on. However, it has also been modelled on a flat plane, and on a flat plane you can take simple straight lines and angles, make trigonometry calculations to work out the heights and distances to all of the things in the observation. That would be conforming with most people's understanding that we see in straight lines. It also conforms with the way that the people have actually surveyed the land in the first place. However, you have a choice. You can choose to believe that the light is being bent by non-standard refraction around a curve that we don't see, or you can choose to believe, as we do, that it models perfectly on a flat plane because it is a flat plane.
And so that's it. So that's your silver bullet. That's your fucking, that's it. That's your
Don't
Bible.
swear. Why are you getting so angry, triggered, and constantly interrupting and swearing?
So angry, triggered, and what? What's that even mean? What am I?
Means,
What do I mean?
why
Triggered?
are you
What's that
angry,
mean?
triggered, and swearing? It's a simple question.
Triggered and swearing? Why? What did I say that's swearing?
The F word.
We all heard you swear. You seem to be very angry about this fact that the Earth is flat. You don't
No,
like
well,
it.
again, that's a problem with assuming. I mean, you're just assuming that I'm angry, but I'm clearly not. So that's your problem.
You still haven't addressed it, even though I've asked it a 5th time at your request.
Is that your
So
silver
you've
bullet? Is that all
requested
the
me.
evidence you have to prove that the Earth's flat?
You've requested
Is
I
that
give
it?
you a proof.
No, there's
I've
much
given it you
more
5
evidence
times.
out
You
there.
still have not addressed
I'm
it.
here all day. Lay it on me. Lay it on me.
A 6th time.
Gyroscopes.
No, 6th time. Would you like to hear my example a 6th time?
No, I think he got it, Nathan.
Well, let's hear
No,
him
I
address it,
understand
Arwin.
exactly what you're saying. I just think that it's complete bullshit. You understand? But
Sorry, do you not
But
understand
that's
that people
ridiculous.
who are
That's
obviously
he explained it in detail. You
considerably
can't
smarter
say
than
it's
yourself?
bullshit. It's actually how it works.
There's plenty of people who've modelled it.
yeah, honestly,
one on
there's a
yesterday.
place for people like yourselves, like a mental health institute. Like you boys need locked up in mental health. If you honestly think that we're living on a big
No,
float,
you're the one that needs locking up, dude.
honestly, lads, there is thousands.
We're actually
of people out there.
figuring
Let
out
him
the
get it out,
actual
Arwin.
mathematics, the
There's people
actual
in here
optics,
laughing
how
at
it
you like
actually
that.
works.
You're making
You're the
complete fool of
lunatic
yourself.
that is
You're making a complete
denying
fool of yourself.
actual proof in plain sight.
Actual proof? No, it's
You
not.
are
It's
the
not one
lunatic,
bit of
not
proof.
us.
No, not one bit of proof, lads. Not one bit of proof.
You are the lunatic here, not us.
I'm
I've
the
just
lunatic.
presented you
Yeah.
with some evidence.
Yes, you
are you going
are.
to ever address it, or are you just going to call us lunatics continually?
No, what I'm saying, you have completely horrendous ideas. I mean, you're convinced we live because you can't see
Horrendous,
fucking a curve.
horrendous that we're
You
actually
can't see a
figuring
curve
out
in
the
a picture
details,
of the Isle of
actually
Man.
working
Lads,
out
just
science,
take
actually
grow up,
working out optics. Is that horrendous?
Grow up,
Is that
lads.
so
will you?
evil? Is that so
Sorry, but
crazy?
flat earthers. There are a load of flat
Yeah,
earthers.
yeah, smoke them. You'll need it.
They're trying to convince me that the Earth's flat.
No, I'm
They're trying
not.
to
I've said
convince
that
me.
already. I
No,
said you
we're
have a choice.
actually
Only
proving
two-
it. We're not convincing anyone. We're proving
I'm
it.
just debating them.
You have a choice at the end. You can accept
through, like,
their model or our model. I don't care
Hangouts or
which.
something. Google Hangouts or something. So it is, yeah. But they're dropping knowledge on me because of the what is it, lads? The helix. Proof. He has proof
Yes.
that the Earth's flat, player. Because if there's a if there's a picture of the Isle of
Is he
Man,
getting
then you
told
can't
off
see
by
it.
his wife in the background? Is that what's going on right now? His wife's asking him why he's so angry and heated and shouting down his computer. Is that what's going on? Are you
Right.
explaining this to your wife?
Yeah, that's it, lads. So what happens then, lads? So what happens
No,
then
I
is
just
the
asked
Earth
you a
just
question. What I asked was, is your wife in the background asking you why you're so angry?
does it not take? Can the Earth not tilt? And then does that mean everyone will fall off? Do you know what I mean? If the Earth slightly tilts.
These crap
There you go,
questions
I'm
don't
talking-
seem to address the
I'm
proof I've
talking to
given
my
you,
friend
or
here,
answer the
he's
question
just
about
getting
whether or
out of
not
bed
you
this
were
morning.
explaining
There's no
yourself to your
proof that
wife.
the Earth can even move.
The Earth can even move. Sure. What
There
would it
is
move around?
no
Sure.
proof that the
There's no
Earth
sun.
can move or that there's a space out there outside of the Earth. There's no proof of this.
There's no proof. What about the rockets? No. Do you believe in rockets? No.
I believe
you
rockets
lads,
are
you all a
really
bunch of rockets.
fun to look at, and they go in an arc and then they go back into the sea.
Obviously, of course, they go in an arc because the Earth. So what are you trying to say though? But you trying to say because a rocket goes in an arc that what? Earth's flat? Is that what
Light
you're saying?
goes in an arc,
No,
rockets go in an
that
arc,
doesn't
everything
work.
goes in an arc. It's amazing.
Exactly, lads. What are you trying to say? So if a rocket goes in an arc, what the fuck does that even
It
mean?
goes up and then it comes down. Yeah, funny, isn't it? Yeah, that's how it works.
Right. What
Yeah.
about satellites? Do you not believe in satellites? No.
Nope, they're not out
Nope.
there.
They're not out there. No. What about GPS? No, that's not a balls as
It's
well.
all
GPS.
radio tower based,
all
and there
radio
might
tower
be
based.
some balloons out there right now floating, forming extra relays that they
Yeah.
could help make it even more
So
efficient.
let's
But
turn the
you
tables
don't really
then.
need all
Let's
the
ask this New Year
satellite
guy.
nonsense on a flat plane because you have a much more direct line of sight to make the radio communication among others possible.
So
And
then
what-
why? So what's the point of sending all these rockets then? So all these countries are sending all these rockets.
It's
For what?
trickery. It's all
It's a
trickery
trick, so
to
it's
make us
all
believe in the ball and make us all
Right.
give them
So
more
tell me this. So
money.
what's the point then in getting us to
Money,
believe in a flat
money,
Earth then?
money, money. A
So
lot.
how are
a
they
lot
making
of
money off
The
me thinking-
biggest budget in
So if I
known
think the Earth-
human history.
How did
That's
someone make money off that though? If
biggest
I believe that the
budget
Earth is
in
flat, then
known
how can
human
someone
history.
money out of that though? I don't understand. Enlighten me on that.
Hey, Sniper, can someone remove Sniper?
It's already gone.
Damn it.
So if I believe that the Earth is flat, how can someone make money off that then?
They can't. That's why they don't like it.
I get ads on my videos. I make
So-
money off making videos about
Don't
flat Earth.
understand.
I've got a
If I
commercialised
think
channel.
the Earth's flat, how can someone make money off it?
Just
I don't
told you I've
understand
got a
what you're saying.
commercialised
Why would
channel.
anyone
No,
want me
it's
to
not
believe-
about. No, it's the other
You're
way
flat.
around. If you believe it's a globe, then you're gonna go along with all these space programs and all that giant, the biggest
Okay,
budget in the world known ever.
So how are they going to
And
make?
it's
So if
ma-
I
it's
believe the
making
Earth
a lot
is
of
globe-
money. Satellites are very, very, very expensive for something
But
that's
I
not
don't pay
actually
for-
there.
but what do you- I don't pay for satellites though. Nothing comes out of my
Oh
pocket.
yes, you do.
How do I pay for satellites?
Through your mobile phone.
What do you mean through a mobile phone?
Yeah,
How do
you're
I pay
paying for all that. All these companies have these satellites, and they ask you money for your service, and that service cost is a
What?
lot higher than it needs to
That
be.
Akaway on, I'll catch yourself on. Why would someone need to think that the Earth is a globe for to have a phone? Why would it make a difference if the Earth's
No, you
flat?
don't
I can
need to
still have a
think
phone.
that.
It doesn't matter whether the Earth is
phone.
flat or
You
if it's
just
a
need to
cube or if
believe
it's
that.
a fucking
Hey, can
circle.
you please freaking shut
No,
up for a
I'm
second?
actually in the middle of speaking
Can
and
you
you've just
freaking
interrupted me.
shut up
No, I
for a
was in the middle.
second so
I
I
was in
can
the middle of
actually
speaking
explain
and
it,
you've
you
just interrupted
freaking
me.
idiot?
It doesn't matter whether the Earth is fucking flat, if it's a cylinder, if it's a cuboid, if it's
Right,
a prism.
second
I'll
warning.
use a phone
No
regardless of
swearing.
what shape the
Don't
Earth is. It
swear
doesn't make
on
no
the
sense.
show. Did you hear
Your
me?
argument is completely.
New Year.
It holds
New
absolutely
Year.
no weight at all.
Stop verbal diarrheaing and just listen. Don't swear.
Sorry, Glenn, don't talk such nonsense.
You want
Tell
me to
that
explain
fucking
it or not?
people
You
are
want
making
me-
money
you
off me
actually
because
want to
I
hear, or
think
do
the
you
Earth
want to keep
is a globe.
rambling in yourself like a freaking lunatic?
You've just told
Get
me that
some
they're
help,
making
man.
money off me
Get your
because I think the Earth is a globe. Listen to what you just said. They are making money off me because I believe the Earth is a globe. Mate,
Yeah.
catch yourself on. Ways up.
That's
Ways
how
up,
it
will you?
works.
Ways up. Catch yourself on.
It's,
Not
I
to do
can
here.
explain it in detail.
Don't ever have kids. Don't
in
ever have kids.
vivid
Don't
detail,
have kids
pointing
because
at
you can't
all the
pass on
parties, how it
your
works.
DNA shouldn't be passed on to anyone. Mate,
Keep
that is
on rambling in yourself like a freaking
Complete
lunatic.
No,
utter
let's
trouble.
hear
Just
it.
keep
Owen.
on muttering, then
Owen.
you'll not have to find out
I
how it
haven't
actually
muttered one
works.
Owen, I want to hear it. I want to hear him tell me
Yeah,
that we
go
shouldn't
ahead.
have children.
Yes,
I want to
exactly.
hear it.
There you go. Exactly. Doesn't matter what shape the Earth is. They're not making money off me because I think the Earth is a sphere or a globe. It makes absolutely no sense. How does
They're
that even?
overcharging you.
Overcharging me on what? Who's charging me on what?
Well, they're charging you a lot more money for your mobile phone than they actually need to.
And but what does that matter? Whether the Earth is flat or if it's a circle, it doesn't matter.
Well, if you've listened, then you'd understand why. But you're not listening.
Having a wee bit of an attack there. Did you fucking have an epileptic fit there?
No, I'm just trying to.
Right, last
like,
warning.
mimic
One
the
more
way
swear
you're
words, and I've got to
No,
kick
well, you're
you.
not doing it
I
very
don't
good,
want to
sir.
kick
You're
you.
not doing it very
Yeah, I'm
good.
You
doing
don't
a
seem
great
to want to
job,
listen to
because
me
you really
interrupting
do
you
sound
either.
like
But
it.
if you
You're
swear
really
again,
not.
I'm going to kick
You're
you
really
out.
not.
You're very angry about this. I know it's
Listen,
flat
see,
and you
that's
don't
what happens.
like it,
Kick
but
me out.
that's
That
okay.
just goes to stand. Someone comes in here and tries to show their views. You just get pissed off and you just kick them out. Go
You're
ahead.
not
I will
showing
walk with my
anything.
head high.
Don't
I will
What is
swear.
your- you
I
don't
haven't
have a
kicked you
view.
out. I'm giving you a
Don't have a-
fourth warning. Don't swear. Simple.
The Earth is flat. Always speak the truth. Be good. Space is not linear.
Can someone boot Sniper again? Hey, Sean G. How you doing?
All right, bye, sniper. Yeah, so come on, lads, come on. So who was that saying to me about about the Earth being flat and me getting paid more on my phone bill? Who was saying that?
That was me.
That was you. Can you elaborate, please? Because I'll.
I will. If you actually manage to not talk for 2 minutes, can you do that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, let me explain again. How it works.
Getting bombarded with snipers.
They're
Use
overcharging
some
you
Hawksky.
for your mobile phone because they say they are maintaining satellites out there, which are very expensive to launch and maintain and all that. And that they actually charge you for that. They basically relay the cost on the millions of users they have. And that makes using your mobile phone more expensive. Well, if they actually admit how it really works, then they could no longer charge as much. They have to reduce the price to make it, to account for it like 1/10 of the cost, because it's really not that expensive. It's the illusion of the necessity of the globe and the satellites that come with it that make it so expensive for them. And
Hey,
they
Jim
pocket
Sanders,
all
can you hear
this
us?
money for free.
Hey, Jim Sanders.
That's how it works.
I'm so sorry. That is pure and utter. That is terrible. That is woeful. Now, hold on. Do you really, really, honestly believe that? You genuinely believe that?
It's been removed because people don't like him talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I couldn't listen to that absolute load of nonsense. Jesus Christ, what a meeting.
Hey, Natsek, how you doing? Good to have you.
Hey, man. Was he sniped or did you guys kick him or no?
Yeah, no, Sean G's picked someone who just has joined, as has Sniper on deck, just to remove people. So Arwen's back if you wanted to carry on your conversation with him, Nunya.
I did get to finish like the explanation, right? Or was I cut off?
Yeah, no, you got
did
the
get to
finish
finish
there.
it.
Yep. And what I was saying was, and do you genuinely believe that? So you believe that satellites and rockets are only there to help prices?
Sorry?
Right. Do you believe that satellites and rockets and all this is just a gimmick? They're all set up as a gimmick just so we can raise phone prices, the price of your phone. That's the reason
No,
for
not
them.
just a phone. A lot more things, and it's also a cover because NASA has the biggest budget in the world. They're the ideal cover for a secret black budget military programs and research programs. So they don't have to account for where the money is going. That way they can keep it a secret, and it works a lot better to basically fend off against international espionage. So it's completely entangled in how the world works.
It looks like we're getting sniped, I think.
This is absolute madness. Lads, I tell you what, fair play to you, have really opened my eyes. Like, I didn't think that anyone could really believe in such nonsense. I'm actually surprised at how dedicated you are to this.
I'll see if I can invite them back on the Google What's Hangouts.
Could I just ask
I should
our
be
guest
stopping
a question?
Yeah,
Our
go ahead.
Irish friend.
The porn bomber. He can't be a flat tard, is he?
Yeah, just being invaded by trolls.
Yeah, I might help kick him off as well. I can't see it. Okay, I can't do that.
Don't worry. So you go ahead, Anthony. What did you want to ask?
The Irish guy that was in, is he still in or has he been kicked?
Yeah, it's still here.
Do you mind if I ask you how old you are, sir?
Can't hear you.
I think he minds.
He's muted. He's on mute.
You can hear him. I can hear him. Everyone can hear him.
No, why are they muted for?
Yeah,
well.
you seem to be ignoring his question that you've heard. Do you want to ask it again, Anthony? He can hear you. You're not on mute. Everyone can hear. So can the audience.
I was just wondering
Sorry,
how
did
old you
you-
are, sir.
Are you asking me a question? Oh, is this directed towards me?
Aye. How old are you? I'm
Oh,
37.
right,
How
go
old are
ahead.
you?
And yet, just for the record, he definitely was 100% muted. Sorry, go ahead there. Can't hear.
It's a question.
And then
You understand?
not. Now you're unmuted.
What
Yeah.
is your age?
Look, why the fuck people keep me being muted? I'm 26. Then
You're
look, he's
26.
muted again.
Oh, I mute myself.
That explains quite a lot.
See? Yes, I'm 26. I'm 26.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, I'll
You're
be honest. When
lads,
I was
you're all on mute
26,
again here.
I,
Come on, if you're going to try and
when
have
I
a
was-
decent conversation here, get the finger out.
when I was 26, I also had the same views of the world that you had. I'd just finished university. I'd started in my first proper job, paid terrible money. I had a really rubbish car, and I had no reason whatsoever to question the shape of the Earth. None. At all. I got to about 34, 35, and then it dawned on me. And it kind of stemmed from the perception that I had, which was essentially to do with 9/11. 2 planes cannot cause 3 buildings to collapse. Do you have any
What
views on
can't-
9/11?
wait,
Or are you
wait,
too
Why
young
don't
for
we
it?
try and use 9/11 for a flat Earth? Mate, come on here. For fuck, catch a grip, lad.
Yeah.
Serious.
I would like to actually debate
believe
another
that-
day on that.
It's a
Not on this channel.
I'm not
We're
gonna-
not allowed to
Flat
change the
Earth.
subject.
Well, I'm not going to.
We're not
I'm not
allowed
going
to-
to.
Hold on. Sorry,
I'm not
sorry,
gonna-
lads. 1 wee second, right? What about all the other planets, right? What about space?
Hang
What
on,
about
hang
all
on,
these
hang on.
planets
Just
that have been
one-
observed? Is that all
Just hang
bullshit?
on, just 1 sec. 1 sec.
Well,
One question on 9/11, and I won't mention. It won't go any further than that.
Right,
Do
go
you
ahead,
think
go ahead.
that 2 planes can cause 3 buildings to collapse?
Yeah, Building
Oh, yeah.
7 and several other
Yeah,
buildings as well
sorry, hang on.
collapsed because.
Have you been to New York?
Because I'll give the answer quickly. It was
not an
because
answer.
structural damage
Exactly, mate.
causing buildings to
Big time.
fall, and the ones underneath got crushed. But going back to
Really? So
Thingo,
how did the
you guys were
structural
talking about
damage of building
satellites and
of
cell
the 2
it's
phone
okay,
buildings
towers.
destroy the 3rd building? Tell me
It's,
that.
it's okay. So the answer to the
Hold on, lads,
question
we're
is
getting-
yes. You think two
Right,
planes
Let him
can
talk
cause
about
3
9/11.
buildings
He
to
was
collapse.
on something there.
Well, no, I'm quickly bringing it back. I'll give my response. I'm going to bring it back over to the satellites and so forth. But I'd love to have that debate another time, though, on a different channel. Oh my god, that fucking buzz. Shit. So yeah, you go off into the Himalayas and so forth. If you bring a sat phone and also a normal phone, an iPhone, for example, or a Galaxy or whatever the fuck, one will get connection, the other one won't. Which one's going to get the connection? The sat phone. Why? Because you're out of range of any cell tower because you're in the Himalayas. That shows the sat phone is connecting to something. It's not going to be a tower. It's going to be a satellite.
So that's the thing. That could literally be a balloon where the mountain ranges are obstructing the land-based systems, the towers, or the older systems. It is known that NASA has been launching balloons from the Antarctic and the Antarctics, carrying very much satellite-looking devices since 2010. So there could now be a system to basically emulate the satellite concepts using balloons
Why would you?
for the more advanced communication systems, as I explained.
But you don't see. Yeah, but you don't see balloons all over the place, do you? Up in the sky. You see,
No, but
you
they're
don't see anything in
very,
the sky.
very high up,
You-
so you wouldn't see them.
Well, that's awfully convenient.
Because they're
or it could be
actually
a satellite.
higher up than the heavenly bodies that we get to see. which are
the
all
coverage
optical
of a
effects, so
satellite would be
they
superior to
supersede
a
that.
camera. Fuck, what's it called? A
Try not to swear.
weather balloon, or a balloon in this case, not a weather balloon, but a balloon. It's got more coverage over the Earth because it's higher up and it's covering a bit more of the Earth. Research me.
Well, where normally the mountain ranges would obstruct the direct line of communication using land-based towers, the balloons would help to make another relay connection to actually make a top-down communication line possible, where before that was just unnecessary.
But they're not launching. So hold on. So you said they've been doing this since 2010. So what about prior to 2010? Were they using non-existent balloons, but secretly they were balloons, or just satellites? I mean, the satellite industry is
officially they have been using satellites like since before the 90s on a regular basis, but still with those satellites you couldn't get communication in the Himalayas, and only now somehow they have new satellites that make this possible. That's because they're now actually trying to make a satellite-like device using the balloon system.
No, you could use satellite phones for quite a number of years, probably 2 decades. I'm not too sure on exactly.
And they didn't work in the Himalayas because it's not actually satellites, as they said. And now they're catching up with their occult technology using balloons.
So citation needed that
because people were complaining that it didn't make any sense. It's satellites. Why doesn't it work here? Aren't satellites floating over us? Well, no, they weren't. So they're now using the balloons to catch up.
But I'm asking citation for this claim that satellites didn't work, which, well, they send them up if they don't work, to cover different parts of the Earth. Interesting.
They didn't work over the ocean, for example.
Citation needed.
Citation needed. Well, why don't you ask people?
If I could do the Bane
actually
voice,
use
I
it.
could, but I would, sir, but I can't.
Lads, hold on. You're getting off topic here. I think anyway.
Well, I think we were on topic. Wasn't it about satellites and so forth?
Screwing off topic a wee bit here.
No,
I asked a question. What about any other planets? Do you believe that planets don't exist? What about other Jupiter, fucking Mars, Uranus, Saturn? Do they exist?
Nunu was asked a specific question about does he believe specifically whether or not two planes can take down 3 buildings. I don't know the relevance of the question, but he hasn't answered it yet. And then NatSec went on satellites and tried to link it, or said he would link it to 9/11 and that specific question. But so far, Nunia, I don't think I've heard an answer from you in that specific regard.
Me? I didn't. I'm against that. I'm saying, of course, 2 planes could take down 3 buildings. Of course. Why couldn't they?
Yeah.
Are you listening to yourself? 2 planes hit 3 buildings.
Hold on a wee second. Have you ever been to New York?
That is ridiculous. Do you know that Building 7 is not even in the same area?
You're telling me that
it's
2
like
planes could not take down 3 buildings in New York? Is that what you're saying?
So how do 2 planes take down 3 buildings when Building 7 is not even in the same block?
Hold on. There's a game, right? There's a very popular game, right? I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called fucking. It's been around for years. It's called Dominoes, right? It's a very, very similar thing that Dominoes.
Building 7 is not in the same
the one
block.
you stack the blocks of wood on top of each other.
Yeah, it's a very, very similar principle. One thing hitting off something else causes a reaction.
Okay.
A transfer of energy, right, from one building to another. Does that not make sense? No.
Yeah, I've got to eject you because you can't stop swearing. Hey, Dawn, how you doing?
Hello.
Good to have you.
You alright?
Not bad. Good day. Very clear.
I must apologize. I didn't hear him swear, but personally, I didn't hear him swear. But
work when they actually make
it's just structural damage does the job. If I was to get a tank and ram it through parts of your house,
Building 7, there was an office fire. How does, like a basic office fire, how does that do structural damage enough to take down the entire building?
Yeah, uncontrolled fires for several hours and structural damage from the debris from the northern tower, I think it was. If you look at any photo of Google Images of building 7 from behind, it had a lot of gaping wounds in that sense. And other buildings also collapsed. I think there was a building
it doesn't.
3, there
There's
was a
actually
building
footage
9,
even as it
building
went down.
8.
It didn't have that type of damage.
All those
Not
got
even
flattened
close.
like pancakes.
It was an internal office fire. Office fires don't destroy the integrity of steel buildings.
Yes, they do. Yes,
don't.
they do.
No, not
Why do you
even, not
think
even,
firefighters
not
try and
even
put
jet
fires
fuel
out?
does this.
Citation
How
needed.
would a basic
Citation
office fire
needed.
do this?
So you have a citation for that, where an office fire has destroyed a steel structure.
That fires can cause structural
Sorry,
damage.
do you have a citation for that? Do you have a citation for another
Okay.
example of a
Yeah,
structural
sure.
fire
Fire-
in a
fires
steel
impact on
building
structural
bringing the
integrity.
building down?
Sure.
Do you have a citation for
mean-
that? Yes or no?
Sure, okay.
Go and get it.
Integrity. Fire effect
Wow.
on building
This man has a great
integrity.
belief in the power of fire. Can do
I
anything.
mean, what do you think happens to metals and other materials when
Is this a
they,
citation
get
for a
heated
building
up?
that's been brought down
Yeah,
by a structural
yeah.
fire that is steel in base or not?
Okay. I mean, what do you think happens to I'll get the
Sorry,
citation
are you
for
going to
it,
repeat the
but-
exact same thing before finding me a citation of a building that's been brought down by fires
I'm
only?
gonna repeat myself because I'm asking you a key question here.
I'm
Yes.
asking you a question about whether or not you have a citation.
I
You've
know,
just
and you
claimed
want-
that it's
Yeah,
perfectly
yes, I'll
common
get
for
you
buildings to be
one.
brought
But in the
down that are
meantime-
steel in structure because of fires. I'm asking you to find me an example of that, please.
Yeah,
Not
yes,
a
I'll
question
do
about
so,
mythology.
but-
No. What I want is an example that you find me of that happening right now. Otherwise, I'm not
I
interested in
will,
talking
yes,
to you.
yes, I
You've
will.
claimed it's
There is
common,
example.
so
I'll
go
make you
prove
an
it
argument
right
with
now.
it.
Can I just
Hey,
say I
Nathan,
have many questions
I do
about
have
9/11 as
an
well, guys,
interesting
but
proof.
I don't think
I
we
do
can
have
just
an
divert
interesting
straight
proof.
onto 9/11 from flat Earth. Because we're
Sure,
both
but I mean-
we've all got differences
I mean-
from flat Earth, haven't we? So it's hard to have the 9/11
Yeah,
conversation.
No, we're talking
metals
about deception.
expand,
The-
and they can sag, and structural integrity can
Goes back on
weaken.
talking about
That
buildings
shouldn't-
without
that
finding a
shouldn't happen.
citation of one that's collapsed, I see. So go and find your citation. You need to be doing some busy work to prove what you've just
Yes,
asserted.
all right. But in the meantime, can I
Not in the
make
meantime.
argument
Chop
with
chop.
it?
Good lad. Go and find your
Can I
citation
make
right
the
now.
argument with it?
Go and find
Can
your
I-
citation.
can I
Then
tell
I
a
will
story?
listen to
Okay,
your
but in the
argument.
meantime, can I make the
I have a
argument?
You have
very
claimed
interesting
that
story to
buildings can
tell.
be brought down
Yes,
with a
I
simple
am making
structural
that
fire.
claim, and in the
I'm not
meantime,
interested
we'll
in
make the
any
argument
further
with it.
assertions until you
If I
prove
get a
that claim.
spoon and heat it up, will it sag or not?
Go and prove it. Go and
metal
find a
spoon.
citation. Go and find an example.
Yeah, but can you address what I'm saying? If
No.
I get a Bunsen burner, I put
No,
a
I'm
spoon
not
over
addressing
it
what
in
you're
the
saying. I'm
handle,
saying go and
will
find
that
me an
sag?
example of where that has
Will
happened.
that sag?
Go and find a citation for when that's happened.
Okay, yes, Oakley, but can you answer this very basic,
No.
elementary
No.
level question?
No.
You
Go and
can't?
find your
Well, there you go.
citation.
And if I did find a citation,
If you
would
do, then I'll
accept it
talk
or
to you
not?
about your silly questions that go along with it.
If
Yeah. In the
If I
meantime,
find
I
this
have a very
okay,
good
In the meantime,
story
go and find
to
your
basically
citation.
compare this to. Did you know that I think it was somewhere either in the 70s or the 80s, there was a massive, massive fire in the Empire State Building that almost burned the entire building. There was fire coming out of it all the way. And guess what? The building's still there. It burned
Different
all
structure.
throughout. There's like
Sure.
massive. It's one of the biggest building fires there ever was. The entire building's lit like a giant burning match.
you do realize not
And
every
it's
building's
still
the
there.
same.
It's still, they even managed, they were
Yeah,
able
but
to
you are aware that not
reuse
every
it
building's
because
the
the
same
heat was not
structurally?
severe enough to
Material
actually
and
damage
structure?
the steel that bad. That's
Are you
how
guys like
fire
Paris?
influences steel buildings.
Not all buildings are the same. Each event that happens to one will be very different compared to something else, right?
So
That
go
should
find
be
one that
plainly
collapsed because of
obvious.
fire.
Doesn't.
I'm
But
still waiting. This
are
is not a
you denying
citation.
the
This is you
effect of a
continuing
fire
a
on a
debate without going and finding the citation to back up your claim that buildings can collapse that are steel in structure through simple fires. You have not gone and found a citation for this. You just keep claiming it over and over again and then talking ad hoc about something completely different, trying to bolster your example without finding a citation. Well, I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to let you wind out the time. You're going to keep getting asked the same question. Go and find a citation for a steel structure building that has collapsed through a simple fire. Until then, I'm not interested in what you've got to say.
I will, but will you also
Do it now.
the question?
No,
that
do it
is
now.
With regard to
No,
fire integrity
I will
of the
answer
building?
nothing until you find a citation for a steel
Would you
structure
please
building
set
that
fire
has
to a
collapsed
building?
because of a fire. I want you to find
Would
one.
you-
Arwin, who
yeah,
you
would
have
you be
interrupted,
afraid-
has given
Yeah,
examples
cool.
of something
Would
that
you
is
be
easy to
afraid
find
of your
documented in
house-
history, that the Empire State Building was ablaze. That's easy to find. Anyone can look it up. You have provided absolutely nothing and asserted that it is perfectly normal and perfectly natural for a building to collapse because of a fire, and you have proved it in no way, shape, or form. So I'm not interested in hearing your gish gallop until you actually prove that to be the case, because that is the point of the question, and you are simply avoiding it continually, trying to talk over me, trying to continually obfuscate the
Can you
point.
answer the question?
Can you answer the question? Have you
Can
got a
you
citation for your assertion?
Well, I'll bring one up for you, and I'll try and find, instead of just a case example.
Do it now.
I'll try and find
Tell you
an
what,
actual paper.
If
not
you
one
don't do
from
it in the next
MIT,
2 minutes,
but
I'll
actually
kick you
get a
out and you can
paper
come
for
back tomorrow with it. How about that?
Oakley,
I'll give you a couple of
Oakley,
minutes to
I'll
go
tell you.
away. I'll stop you from talking. You can go away and find it. Cite it now in the next 5 minutes. If you don't, I'll kick you out, because I keep telling you, it's about the 4th time I've told you, I'm not interested in a dialogue until you provide that citation for the assertion that buildings can collapse through a simple fire when steel in structure. I'm not interested in any other gish gallop. So you've got 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops to go and find it. I've given you enough opportunity and you've talked continually.
Why do we have demolition
Buildings falling down
companies?
from fire.
Why don't we just set office fires? Why do they have demolition companies? Why don't they just set an office
well,
fire?
if your house caught alight, would you not be afraid of
House
its
is not a
possible
steel
collapse?
structure,
I
is
would
it?
be.
A house is not a steel frame structure. It's brick.
Some houses are made of steel,
Bricks
actually.
do
Right.
break under
Well, your
extreme
house,
heat.
my house, and this house is not.
My house actually is. It's actually made
Wowee.
of,
What about a
steel
steel
components, yes.
building? Oh, I see. See, P. Mars keeps getting kicked out because P. Mars has actually got something to say on this subject. So I'll introduce P. Mars on Skype so he doesn't continually get kicked. And he can ask you a few questions as he's much more knowledgeable about this subject.
I'd like to have the 9/11 chat one day when Flat Earth's all done with, but we have so many differences, don't we, on the Earth?
Flat Earth's not gonna be done with for some time.
Okay, so just while I get, what's his name, P. Mars back, I'm going to mute the Hangout because I'm continually being muted. You guys aren't going to get to talk when I can't if I'm doing other things. So give me a few seconds while I introduce P. Mars to this call.
I did it for you.
Oh, you did it? Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No worries, P. I'll unmute the Hangout so they can hear you, you can hear them. They can hopefully obfuscate your points all day too.
Oh my god, this 9/11 talk drives me nuts.
I blame Anthony. He brought it up. I don't know why.
It's 70 years and people still don't get it.
I mean, that's what got me really started on the truth, I guess. And I was really passionate about 9/11, so I know pretty much everything about that.
It's not got anything to do with the shape of Earth, though, has it?
Well, it's got something to do. Well, the shape of the Earth conspiracy involves the elite lying to us, which 9/11 is a great example of how the masses can believe a complete and total lie, even if physically impossible things happen in front of their eyes.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
you, for example, run through Occam's razor for a moment. So you think
This isn't a citation.
that
I'm going to kick you out.
X-ray-
I'm going to kick you out and
whatever
just let Dawn have
X-rays-
the conversation because you're not going and getting a citation for what you've claimed.
I
You're just continuing the debate as though you haven't
be
even claimed it and
patient.
continually
I'm gonna run the
asserted it though it's
argument
true.
With this bloke for a moment.
Why have you
Settle
not got a
your horses.
citation for what you've just claimed?
So, okay, then I'll find a paper on here. So here's a case study on the structural assessment of a fire-damaged building, right? And
Is it a citation
Material Science
for-
and Engineering.
Is it a citation, yes or no, for a building that is steel in structure and has collapsed after a fire? Yes or
so
no?
This paper, the hard was the stress, was the trust element due to steel behavior. That
You
is hardly
seem to be
being
completely
predicted.
ignoring my question and just muttering to yourself. So I'll ask it again, and if you don't give me a yes or no answer, I am going to simply kick you out because you're just chewing out the time of this show, and it's really frustrating.
I'll make the citation, but I can also make the argument with it.
So make the citation
Bro.
now.
Okay, I'll provide a whole plenty. What I'm going to provide, instead of case examples, I'm going to provide you with papers that look at fire's exposure to metals and other elements that make up buildings.
No,
with
but
structural
no.
engineers and so
A
forth.
citation is an
That will then
actual
go into the
example, not a
science of
theory, not like how fire influences
It's
steel.
like
An actual
theory.
example,
This
an
is
example,
a
an
structural
example of a
assessment.
real thing that happened, not an experiment.
Yeah.
An example of an actual
Oh
building.
no! So we don't want to go into the science of how fires make buildings weak.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
but
going to
we
ask
don't.
you
We
again.
want an
Alwyn, I'm just going
example.
to ask him another time. If I don't get a citation with an example of a building that is steel in structure that has collapsed of its own volition simply because of fire, if he doesn't give it me this time, I'm going to kick him out.
I mean, the big problem
unless
he
we
has
don't
is
provide
World Trade
citation
Center
in 5
7
minutes.
fell
You
into
give him a
its
chance, P.
own
Let's just see if he
footprint.
brings us up a citation of a building that has collapsed because of fire and is steel in structure. Let's see if he gives it us.
Alrighty.
He's going to be searching on Google
So I'll
for
give
some
you
time.
these papers as well.
He cited Occam's razor, which is a horrible epistemology.
The Occam's razor was used for the conspiracy for tinfoil that you apply to this global illuminati of reptilian aliens.
Sorry, what the hell does this have to
9/11.
do with a building
Terrorists.
collapsing? Right, it's your last chance. You just
Uh-huh.
obfuscated one too many times. You've completely pissed me off. Come back tomorrow with a citation. The citation needs to be specifically a building that is steel in structure that has collapsed simply because of fire. I've asked it about 5, 6, 7 times. I'm sick of it.
Wow. He actually brought in reptilians. That's
Yeah, he
amazing.
deserved to be kicked just for that.
So I'm happy to move on from 9/11 because that was just a test for the Irish guy, wasn't it? What
Yes,
Riley wanted
basically,
to ask.
that's the point. Correct, Dawn. Well kept up.
Don, were you the baller I was talking to? That I was talking to someone who was from Australia, and they said they were a structural engineer, and they thought 9/11 was hogwash, that a plane
no,
couldn't.
that's not me. I'm in the UK.
One of your
Architects
friends.
and engineers against 9/11. It's a big group.
Yeah,
Thousands
one
of
of
engineers.
one of your friends in your Discord I was talking to, I can't remember who it was, and they were a structural engineer. They're from Australia, and they said the plane would never, it would do hardly any damage. I've seen a video where the guys who designed the World Trade Center were talking about how they designed it to take commercial plane hits, and they said it would do like very little damage. They compared it to a pencil being put through a screen door or something like that. It would just like put a hole in it, and it wouldn't really affect the structural integrity.
I've heard that one.
Well, did you know, Bmars, you probably knew this, but did you know that the World Trade Center buildings were actually insured specifically
Oh, it like
against
right,
planes
yeah.
hitting them for billions?
Well, for
I think
against
it was like
terrorism,
billions.
yeah,
No,
they were.
but for planes hitting it, taking it down, that it was officially insured against that to happen. This
Yeah,
is
and
like
it-
the most bizarre insurance ever.
It was insured
Oh,
like really
planes
shortly
hit
before
the
9/11
towers?
too.
Do you think the planes actually hit the towers, Arwen, or do you think that was like a hologram or just fake news?
Fake news.
That is another matter entirely. It's complex. I'm not even too sure about that. Could have happened, might have not happened, but
Right.
that's not even the subject. The thing is
So
that
how
even
did the towers
if
fall
they
if
did
the
hit
planes
it,
didn't
then
hit
that
them?
still wouldn't have brought them down.
No, I would say that. I mean, that does bring us nicely back onto Flat Earth if you want to bring in things like
Yeah,
the
that's what I
space
was trying to
fakery.
kinda
You've got
link it.
CGI compositing at play. You know, it's very crude when you look at the 9/11 footage now, but by comparison to what they do in real time on the ISS, you know, they're much more slick now. I mean, just the fact they can do it in real time is amazing to me. But you know, back in the 90s, they'd have to do it all in post. You know, they have to go to great extents with sound stages to fake it to a live audience on a crappy little television screen,
Well,
and then
if it's
do it all in
fake.
post.
Well, I've actually analyzed September Clues, and I wouldn't believe that because I've found a lot of flaws within that documentary where they're misrepresenting the truth. So I think they actually used real planes.
I'm assuming they like remotely controlled them or something. I mean, it's kind of like the Operations Northwood, similar to that. I think that I don't see why they would use CGI. Like it makes no sense. I talked to my cousin who was there. I think he saw the planes and heard them. So I mean, I just think they were real planes. I think that whole fake CGI plane thing was like the no force on flat Earth, and it was just to like
it's
make
silly,
the
Deliberate mock-up, a deliberate conspiracy.
yeah, it was to make.
conspiracy.
I think it was to make the conspiracy look ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Maybe.
I mean, but would you? I use that as a ham-handed segue to get us back onto other types of CGI fakery. So where do you stand on that?
Well, I mean, you could, like, technically you could use, yeah. I mean, the modern technology propaganda techniques they could use. I wouldn't really trust a lot of video or photography. It could easily be faked. And that's just a reality. And then we know that they have technology way more advanced than us. So a lot of times, like ball earthers will argue that the early photographs NASA took couldn't be CGI, but that's not true because I'm sure they've had this CGI technology the entire time we've had pictures, and like
they're
like 60 years
about
ahead of us in
deciding
technology.
what's real and what isn't
Yeah, they
now
had
in 2018.
actual
I'm worried
pretty
about my
amazing
kids having to make
3D
that decision
CGI
in
footage
20
very
20
early
years.
on using heavy computers.
Just let Dawn respond, then respond to Dawn. Just one at a time.
Okay.
Sorry, I cut PMAs off a bit. I was just saying I'm not worried now about deciding what's real and what's not because I think I can still tell. But in 20 years, I'm worried that my kids will have to make very hard decisions about what's real and what's not.
I agree.
Yes. And the elite has become very good at basically erasing history and replacing it. So it's going to be harder for the newer generations to make out, like, yeah, it was such a long time ago. They could have now faked it. We're already noticing among some flat Earth circles that even the very far history seems to have been replaced in some areas. So if they did that, then they will eventually be able to do it with the history that's not even that far away.
2 shout-outs, one to John LeBon and one to Flat Earth British, Martin Liedtke.
Yeah, Martin Liedtke has amazing work in the history department.
No spam, please.
Mark Taylor says, can't the wizard go back in time and see what happened on 9/11? You know what, Mark Taylor? I watched the TV and the news when 9/11 happened. I was there. I was stuck to the television all day for a week. I was completely consumed by it. And I actually fell for it completely. I was really like outraged. Like, I thought like, yeah, you know what? I thought the wars in Afghanistan were justified at the time, all of that. And then basically Bush said, yeah, we need to attack Iraq. And that's when I first thought, wait, that doesn't make any sense. How are they related? That's when it really started to come in that there's something weird going on. And then I got into contact with Loose Change, the movie that first really addressed the details of 9/11. And that's when it started to sink in what was going on.
Yeah, I was like really freaked out on 9/11, and then like they attacked the Pentagon, and I'm watching this live, and I'm just thinking, wow, is our whole country
all
under
over the
attack?
TV, everywhere.
Yeah, I was like really passionate, and I wanted to figure out like because I was 19, just coming out of high school, and I was really dumb and indoctrinated, and I thought, well, America's the good guys. Why are they attacking us? And I was obsessed with figuring out what was going on, and I didn't wake up through watching a stupid YouTube video. You just I just looked at the official story they gave us, and it's totally illogical. They're telling me that Osama bin Laden attacked us because our military is in Islamic countries, but then his strategy of attacking us just gave us an excuse to have more military in their countries. So obviously he's a bad strategist or something, or an idiot, or he's working for us. And then when you look at like a motive, George Bush's father wanted to go to Iraq and stuff. So
Well, he
there's
did in the
there's a
90s.
we have an yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying. We have an established motive already there. So you look at, you got to analyze it like a criminal court case and establish a motive, like who is to gain. This is how you like are supposed to logically, critically think about things. I didn't just
follow the money trail.
But I mean, I can see your point. Like, a lot of people don't critically think, and they'll just watch a YouTube video and wake up, and then they haven't really thought it through, and then they could easily just go back to believing the official story. So, but no, man, I'm legit. I'm an expert on this stuff. If you want to challenge me, come on this panel, and we can go. I'm not afraid of anyone.
And by the way, in 2001, YouTube wasn't that extensive. There was the biggest thing that was still out there was Google Video, which has been taken down for several years now. And YouTube was still very small time back then.
Yep. I was around at the beginning of YouTube, and when it was small time, it was way better, and now it's just full of people trying to get rich who don't really care about the truth.
Hit that super chat.
Cocaine.
I feel that Flat Earth has ruined like real conspiracies looking into things like 9/11. So that's why I can't really have the conversation with you guys, because we've divided ourselves.
We've ruined it? What?
Not you.
No,
not you,
we just moved further down the rabbit hole.
So we have approximately half an hour left on this live stream. I hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. Slightly 9/11 heavy episode for some reason. Don't really know why, but nonetheless, if you are enjoying this stream, be sure to share the stream, as it does increase the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, and in this instance, a more diverse conversation. Hopefully we can get it back on Flat Earth related subjects shortly. If you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you'd like to support the show, as Ian Matheson, I think it was, did exactly that, hit the super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, or the link in the info box below the video once it has rendered. One last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. As I say, there is about 30 minutes left on this broadcast.
Lovely link there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so with 9/11, I'm kind of in the middle, like, as Mars was calling my friends in Discord. So I don't really agree with all of them on 9/11, but I don't agree with you guys much either. So I'm stuck in the middle on 9/11.
What do you not agree about?
I'm just not willing to fight on your side against the official story because of other things you guys have said in the past. I'm a bit sad about that.
That's not very logical. Why would you not agree because of some other subject? That's extremely biased.
I can try and explain it, because talking about flat Earth and holograms and simulation sky and all this stuff, it kind of ruins your credibility to talk about logical truth.
No, it doesn't. We take subjects per subject and we treat it as we see fit and as we are figuring it out. Just because we might be wrong about one subject doesn't mean we are automatically wrong about another. That's extremely biased to approach.
I don't want to fight on your side because of some of the things you said.
We're trained to have all these biases, though. Like, you're trained to take the opinion of someone in a white lab coat over just like mine, for example. That's not because the person in the white coat is smarter or knows more than me. It's just like that's your brain. You're brainwashed to have this bias and to ignore certain types of information and people based on their what physical appearances and stuff.
No, that's not me.
I think everyone's like that. Even I'm like that.
You were, so that is you.
No, that's not me.
Like I know all this stuff about how we're influenced and brainwashed, and I'm still sitting there in like a dentist office, and this dentist is convincing me to, irradiate my brain with getting an X-ray and stuff, and I just listen to them because it's hard, it's weird, it's like really ingrained into us. Even if you know about it, you still like, I still experience the programming.
I don't take my globe information.
It's very hard to be your own doctor. It's hard.
Yeah.
Because the entire society pushes it on you to trust your doctor no matter what. And my mother did, and it killed her.
Yep. Like my dad, he got the flu shot because he trusted the doc. Like, he's not going to listen to his ignorant son, right? He's going to listen to the doctor. The doctor loves them.
Yep. And it's very hard. It's very painful, very disconcerting to give in to the insight that that part of society that civilization rests upon so seemingly might actually be completely wrong and evil.
So civilization doesn't rest upon globe science, does it? Is that what you're saying?
No, it does. And Western civilization definitely does rest upon that doctors are there for our health
the doctor thing,
to improve our lives. Well, practice shows more and more that most doctors seem to be moving more towards being drug pushers.
Oh, yeah, I agree on this as well. On that one sentence that you just said.
It's all like allopathic medicine. It's all about symptoms.
But we still need them if we're sitting at home ill.
Moving around the symptoms instead of using a holistic approach, which actually has an end result in mind that is beneficial, that is good, that is stabilized. They just keep on moving the symptoms.
So if you've got a daughter and she's got chicken pox and the flu and she's really ill, would you take her to a doctor or a shaman in the woods?
I'd try to learn about what she is dealing with, and then figuring it out myself, and then seeing what source would be best to approach for that.
By following doctor's advice.
But there are people that are well versed in alternative medicine and holistic approach in medicine, and I would definitely approach them first. But these days, I wouldn't even do that. I just do my own research. I've learned enough to trust myself to be my own doctor, and it's working out really well. So how would you treat
your child with chickenpox off your own back, your own knowledge?
Sorry?
If your child had chickenpox, how would you treat that just off your own knowledge, being a doctor yourself?
Well, from chickenpox is a very typical common disease that's not that threatening. The best thing to basically do is let them get it, prevent them from scratching the things, because that leaves scars if they go scratch it, and they'll get over it. And just give them chicken soup, give them vitamin C, so they'll heal up as fast as possible. And that's just the best way to treat it. It's always been that.
So you're never going to take your children to a real doctor ever?
Well, I might.
Take them to a doctor if they like.
I might report to a doctor like, hey, my daughter would have chickenpox, just to register it, because once you get it, you don't get it anymore. So it's good to actually officially register it somehow. But I might listen to what the doctor has to say on what to do with it. But if he'd say like, oh yeah, there's this special new experimental vaccine, then I'd say, no, I'll just go with what is known throughout centuries.
Yeah,
I trust that a lot more than new medical experimental things.
Modern medicine is really good, like if you're in a car crash or something like that, if you're like seriously injured. But in terms of like holistic overall health, it's absolute garbage.
All right.
Well, surgery is still a good thing, like in accidents, and I'm convinced that for all its flaws in the medical system, emergency surgery is still very important. If you want to save people that have been shot up or have been in a severe car crash, then of course you'll need a good surgeon to stitch it back together, as it were. That's critical. Like, without that, where would you be? But when it is concerned to like metabolism and long-term health things and chronic diseases, no, I would definitely not go to the allopathic doctor at first for that. Maybe hear out his opinion, but no, there are much better sources for that. That's how I would do it.
So who did you guys enjoy talking to more, the Irish guy today or Philip the other day? It's quite a stark difference in how they approach.
What one tells you not to
that guy
reproduce, the
today-
other one goes out and does research and presents it in a really nice way. Yeah, very different.
Oh, you like the Philip thing? So you
Yeah,
can
Philip was
debate
cool.
over refraction then for hours.
No, I
can't
thought
you?
Philip was good. He did a really, really cracking job. And the other thing he did, albeit a little begrudgingly, you know, a tiny percentage, was he conceded the points that were our points. So he said, here you
Right.
go, here's a model of it on a flat plane, and here's a model of it with a globe, and here's all the maths that goes along with that. So, can't really ask much more than that. He did the research. Took him several
'Cause
months.
I found it really boring just going over refraction maths and stuff.
Okay,
I don't think
then you
that
missed the
doesn't
point.
solve
I
the
agree.
argument.
It is boring. It is boring. But the point was simple. On a flat plane, when you model the Isle of Man, what you end up with is a very simple model that is drawing straight lines to the targets and taking simple trig measurements. That's the end of the explanation. That's it. Whereas when you get into the flat Earth, the globe equivalent of that model, you've got lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of boring maths to look at. You know, our explanation is one sentence. We see the stuff because it's there. And you can measure
Yeah, I
it
know.
like we measured those hills with trig.
But like I said, nature is variable, isn't it?
Well,
You
yeah,
can know
but it
that
seems
by
that...
living in it.
True, but it seems that when we're doing simple trig on the hill, it's incredibly important that we get very straight lines, according to all the globers. Yet when we're measuring things at distance, suddenly they don't want straight lines. They want curved lines. And they've got a lot of maths to show you how the curved lines work, to account for the curve that we don't see. In our model, there's no curve to account for not being there. So that immediately eradicates that problem.
You boiled the debate right down to refraction maths, didn't you? So there's still some guys that want to fight that corner and try and explain refraction maths on a globe to you.
Well, they're not. Well, like, that's the point. He wasn't fighting at
But
all.
I liked it when it was a philosophical debate. You know what I mean? No refraction math needed.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Shall
but
we expand our minds?
We're
and
talking
question
about
stuff
not
or
philosophy.
or
We're not talking about philosophy here. We're talking about reality.
I know, but we've still got stuck down in the details.
Well, what of reality? Yeah, that's where right where I want to be.
Yeah. I think some other people enjoy the philosophy a bit more, though.
Oh well, I like reality as opposed to philosophy. I like to know exactly what we see, how it works, why it works, and the simplest explanation, Occam's razor, according to the NatSec, is the thing you should be using. Well, in this instance, there are two examples that you can accept. One is incredibly complicated, and one isn't very complicated. In fact, it's incredibly simple. We see things because they are there. That is the end of our explanation, and our model needs no explanation beyond that.
But could you extend that into the sky and the sun and the moon and stuff? Because if you're going to extend that point of we see it because it's there.
Yeah, the physical stuff that we can touch that is tangible, yeah. You want to go into the intangible, that's a different story. But we can physically touch,
Isle of Man
measure,
isn't tangible
and
when
see
you're
all of
standing on
these
some
things.
bees, is it?
And we have touched, measured, and seen them. And that's precisely what we are doing. You can now say, oh, well, I would much prefer we were talking philosophically or about intangible objects. Tough luck.
No, I'm just saying your approach needs to stretch more than just the refraction math of Isle of Man.
It's not
It
my
doesn't
math.
prove your theory.
It's not my math, not my theory. You understand that, right? People do this all the time. When I talk about the stuff looming and being holograms, people say, oh, well, you need to stop focusing on this bullshit. It's not my bullshit, it's yours. It's the bullshit necessitated to believe you live on a sphere. Mine has
Philip
no
explained
bullshit.
it to you, didn't he?
Straight
Many people
lines,
have
straight
tried to
angles,
explain it to you.
easy to do maths, simple. The kind of maths that I can do, simple maths. Simple trig.
So
Very,
you believe
very
you see
simple.
Isle of Man because it's there. So
Yeah.
then just move on. We all believe you know, in the
You all believe it's not really
complicated
there.
fraction
I know what you believe, Dawn. You believe it's not really there. It's all behind a curve that we don't
So we
see
can
because
move
it's
on
in
to
the
other
photo.
stuff.
I know what you believe, and it's ridiculous. That's why I'm here. To point out to people like you that you just want to go about your merry life believing that the photo isn't really there. That's what you want to believe. It's up on
believe
screen
nature's
right
variable,
now,
that's
and you
enough,
want to
that's
believe the
enough.
stuff in that image isn't actually there. It's a holographic representation of stuff that's hidden behind a curve. And that's nonsense. The maths that goes along with it's very boring, as you pointed out earlier. For us, the explanation is nice and simple. We see it, and we can measure it with a straight line and a simple angle.
But what if we start saying we can see the moon's a sphere because it's there?
Have you touched the sphere?
But you can't see
Have
it.
you touched the
can't
moon?
prove it.
Have
It's
you
even a
touched Isle
sphere.
of Man?
Yeah. I've been to the Isle of Man. I know it's physically there. What do you
Yeah, but
want?
you can't touch St. Bees when you're over at Isle of Man, can you? You can't. It's the same.
Yeah, but you can
no, I
go
can't be in
there
two places at
yourself
once,
and then
correct.
prove it's physical.
I can't be in two places at once, but I've never been to the moon and never will. It's an intangible object that I've never been to, can't touch, can't accurately measure. But we can, and people have, accurately measured all of these geographical locations that aren't philosophical, they're real.
Things are more reliable as proof when you can actually touch them yourself in person.
But the observations of Isle of Man, it's not like that, is it?
Yeah, it is exactly like that. It's a real thing that's just had a photo of it taken and stuff's in the photo. For you guys,
That's the same
the
with the
stuff
moon,
isn't
that's the
really
same with
where
the
it
moon.
is. None of the stuff is actually where it's physically located. It's all in a different location, even though it's not. And you account for it not being in that location with a load of complicated maths. Well, that's up to you. You can accept that. Or you can accept the simple fact that we do see it, it is there, and we can measure it simplistically. Those are our facts. Not, you don't have to like them. But Occam's razor's on our side. I love these
And
protracted
you can draw in the
silences.
heavenly bodies and everything, but that is to actually prove it is a lot harder because we
your
don't
model-
have
in
the
your model, nature's
resources
still
available
variable
to
in your
actually
model.
go there, if that is even physically possible. So
'Cause you
that's
have the
going to
dirty air,
stay
that's
distant
variable,
theory.
isn't it?
Oh, dirty air. So the obstruction formerly known as curvature was not accounted for in the model of the flat plane done by Philip yesterday. It wasn't even needed. He couldn't account for the actual refraction that we see in either model. So despite modelling refraction into his model, he simply couldn't get it to work with the lighthouse and formerly known as Douglas and the seashell reflecting down upon itself. The nose cone, all that stuff that's an inverted mirage, he couldn't model on either. He did, apparently, according to him, model it on the flat plane, and it didn't make much difference. But ultimately speaking, he confirmed what I have said many times, that he has modelled it on a flat plane with what you see as what you get in mind with straight lines and simple trig, and it pretty much matched up. And he also measured it with all of the variable calculations plugged into a very complicated maths equation on a computer simulation to get it bring it back from behind a sphere and a curve that we don't see. So he could get it to work in both instances. The fact of the matter remains that the actual refraction that is evidenced in the image wasn't necessary to model on the flat plane. You could still assume that you had a direct line of sight with all the targets that aren't distorted, that don't look like mirages like the mountain, and it still works out. So in that respect, you have another level of bullshit that I could apply, if I wanted to the flat plane model. It would only make a negligible difference to a negligible amount of the image, because refraction is negligible if measured in reference to a flat plane. As soon as you start going over curves with big drop measurements, then
Okay, so
suddenly the
refraction's
refraction
more
isn't negligible because everything's a bloody hologram. Everything's a mirage.
negligible.
Everything's
But
looming.
you have other variable nature on a flat Earth, don't you?
Don't need it if you're measuring it on a flat plane. You can just put a simple trig calculation together
No,
with
not
a direct
refraction,
straight
other-
line
other
with a
nature.
measurement of something you do see, and it all works out without having to factor any of the necessary
For
bullshit that the
example,
globe model
clouds.
uses to
Clouds
simply
are
account
variable
for the
in that.
fact that things we shouldn't see, we do see.
Many different shapes of clouds. They
I
move
might
around.
give up on
they
this
split
broadcast,
up.
Dawn, soon, because no
Variable-
offense to
variable
you, mate,
nature.
you're trying to get your arguments across, but every time I talk, right, I have to constantly pepper the mute button because I'm being constantly muted. So you're getting to say what you say, but a sniper's joining just to shut me up while I point
because you
out
don't
over and
join the
over
back
again
chat of your own
that
hangout
you're...
and look.
Yeah, see, Porn Bomber just joining to mute me. It's just, yeah, I'm going to give up on this broadcast soon. I'm tired of it. Tired of being continually muted. Sorry, Dawn. If it happens again, that'll be the end. I'll round out and you won't get any points in. There we go.
Like you said it the other day.
Yeah, I'll just mute you, Dawn. Maybe round out this broadcast with Arwin. I'll give up on the hangout because, why I should be continually muted and Dawn gets to continually waffle his nonsense shite about his model that needs loads of refraction that he finds really boring. Why on earth would I listen to that crap for any longer and constantly be muted while I say the same thing 6 or 7 times to some guy that basically has got a team of people behind him to come in and basically mute me continually while I make the same point, like Quantum Eraser did. Use the example, this guy just keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Oh, right, what, there's fingerprints on the murder weapon and a CCTV footage of the guy actually killing him. Yes, prosecution, you just keep repeating the same thing over and over again. Dismiss all of the prosecution's evidence because it's constantly repeated. Well, yeah, I'm going to constantly repeat that if you calculate the negligible refraction, it is negligible if you calculate for it on a flat plane, and it isn't even necessary because we do have a direct line of sight and can take straight line measurements and simple trig when you do it on a flat plane. All of the next level bullshit with refraction and non-standard refraction and applying Fermat's principles to a globe, that we have a curve that isn't visible, all of that shit isn't necessary if you do it on a flat plane. You don't have to account for any refraction because it's negligible. If you did, I'm sure you could model it into that tiny, tiny, tiny little couple of millimeters that it actually applies to in the image. All the rest of the things will eventually be explained in terms of how your vision works. Arwin is still on the call, so he can hopefully explain that there is a zone of invisibility based on the fact that if you stand on something and draw a straight line out at angles to the floor and angles to the infinite ceiling that you don't have above you, nothing's blocking your view, you have a shortfall in what you can see in front of you and below you. And the line of sight that we have in St. Bees to Isle of Man is consistent with the exact level and position that Anthony's actually stood at when he varies his position. Same with Ranty as he goes up and down in elevation and shows that you lose things from the bottom. That's how it works. Now, these explanations aren't clear and concise, and we have no actual science given to us for how these things really work. Refraction's been co-opted. Instead of being a little mirror line below a tiny section of the picture, it's described as this 7/6 arc radius calculation that goes around a sphere that we don't see. So all of this kind of nonsense, as we get to understand it more, we'll explain it to our audience in a more consistent and concise way, while we're told to drink bleach and not reproduce by, guys that join the panel get very aggressive, get very sweary, and people who join just to mute me, so that all that happens is the guy in the hangout, in this case Dawn, can talk freely while he gets my conversation with him constantly interrupted, because my mic goes out to the audience regardless. So, it's just a bit of a bugger that this has been a bit of a what's the word, Arwin? This hangout's been a crap fest in that regard, hasn't it?
Well, maybe. I thought it was pretty good, actually.
You haven't been pressing 20 million buttons. We should see me frantically fingering.
But it's been great. I think it was very enervating. I loved it. And I liked how we actually got into 9/11 a bit and just showed how similar the illusions are in that area with the globe versus flat Earth debate. It's very similar in nature. The psychology is pretty much the same. The tactics, the deflection tactics are pretty much the same. It's fascinating.
Well, it's like these people are muting Nathan. They're sniping anyone who doesn't agree with them out of the hangout. Like I was sniped out of the hangout, but the Ball Earthers were allowed to stay. And people in the chat and Gem's Discord are talking about suing me and suing other people. So, yeah, I mean, they don't like my opinion, I guess. They don't want me to. I think they don't like free speech is the deal. They want to ban everyone who has a different opinion than the Gems Discord. They just hate free speech. They want an echo chamber. I don't understand it. Like,
They should join the social justice warrior movement then.
should go to like Soviet Russia or something. I don't know.
Yeah, of North Korea. Yeah, but they're getting crazy, and I thought it was kind of hilarious how Don actually said, "Yeah, I'm getting bored with my own theories." Just hilarious. Like,
yeah, well,
I'm
these
getting
people who
bored
join to
going over this.
just to dox and to mute, it's like that's the open part of the hangout. That's the people. That's the part that anyone can join, and it's the only person that suffers is someone like Dawn, assuming he's just some regular Joe that wants to ask a few questions and express his views, which is exactly what this platform offers. But you know, after about an hour and 10 minutes of constantly having to flick between my screensaver photos and the hangout, and constantly flick back and forth on the mute button, you just think, what? This is too much effort. I'd rather just have a civilized conversation with you and P Mars for the last 10 minutes. You know, I can just shut the hangout down and say, okay, it's unfortunate, but this isn't going to be public for the last 10 minutes of the show because, you know, we've got arseholes that don't want free speech, as P Mars puts it.
Okay, now Down Threader is saying, it's not my theory, it's not my math. That is globe refraction. But that is what he actually subscribes to, so it's funny that he's even in denial about that. Seems like an inward spiral, a fractalized inward spiral of denial.
Yeah, that's it. They project their denial onto you as well. So in the case of it all being looming, and I called it hologram to deliberately bring, you know, a bit of tension to the way I've described it so that people find the word contentious and start debating it. It's like once they concede that what we see actually have in the pictures is not physically there on a sphere, it's in totally different locations at varying degrees around the curvature. Once I know implicitly that they accept that fact, then I'll say, oh, you can call it what you like. If you want to call it looming, I don't care. If you want to call it refraction, I don't care. If you want to call it slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, I couldn't care less how you term it, so long as you implicitly understand that what we see is not what we get. In this picture, you're not seeing anything where it actually is. The entire thing is looming up behind the curve of the Earth. And that's what you have to accept if you're going to accept that you live on a sphere. And once you do accept it, I'm more than happy to have a very calm, collected conversation, occasionally with a few edgy concessions from someone like Philip, where they're like, yeah, okay, I do accept that you can just draw straight lines of sight to it and not factor refraction in at all, and it still works. You know, those people don't want to say that sentence. They'll just go, okay. You know, in a very understated concession. But ultimately speaking, from that perspective, having someone like Philip on, who's actually gone to the effort and does understand it really, really well, that's a total breath of fresh air, especially from the ball side. You know, he said, I'm trying to remain open. So he's kind of, you know, I can relate to that. I'm a flat earther, but I want to remain open because these guys understand how refraction works and they understand the effects of seeing things at distance, so much so that they can co-opt it into making people believe that they see a curve when they don't, which is, to me, as amazing as the heliocentric system itself. You know, I've got a lot of admiration for it. It's cool. You know, I used to love space and think it was amazing. And it's because it's very, very well worked out. And it's worked out with things that we do observe. So studying their explanations for how the mathematics works will bring us to a better understanding about how the world works. It doesn't change my view on whether or not it's flat. It is. You know, the fact that it happens to, in their minds, calculate out perfectly on a flat plane with straight lines and simple trig, you know, that for them is a major coincidence and an amazing thing that just doesn't happen very often. You know, Ranty goes out a few days later, nice clear day, click, and gets the same observation. You're like, this isn't a rare occurrence. Nothing's shifted, nothing's moved, nothing's twisted in its what's the word? In its they don't like holograms, so I'm pretending that I'm talking to a normal person that does actually understand it and isn't stupid. You know, what do they call it? They call it a mirage. That's the word. I was getting there slowly. So yeah, if you actually accept and understand that it is a mirage on a globe, then you've got to explain why it's in perfect proportion, why there's no distortion, why it doesn't twist left and right as you spin the camera left and right through the image. Why is none of it changing in its location? Why is none of it distorted? Why is it so perfect that the globe heads can do a mathematical equation and account for it almost perfectly if it's a very rare event? Why would they have the maths down so pegged? It doesn't make any sense. Well, they have, because they need to co-opt what we see at distance into believing that we live on a sphere, because that's the basic standard narrative. So these people are going to have it worked out carefully, and it will bring us to a better understanding about how the world really works, and that's where we're getting with this. That's the bit I want. So I'm only interested in the facts, you know, getting it as close to possible as to the real details of what we see and observe. Same way when we measure St. Bees, you know, I want it to be really accurate because I want to know how it really works, not because I want to disprove Rumpus. If he wants to believe it's a globe because he's got the maths that tell him that a flat image of a flat representation of a flat plane just happens to be something that's a rare occurrence that happens on a sphere, then, you know, more power to you. You know, Occam's razor, open your vein with it, mate. You know, good for you.
Suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. Like in a movie theatre when you see Superman flying around the sphere, you know, you understand that you're not going to get that point of view because you're not Superman, but you ultimately are only suspending half of the belief that you really actually have. Your suspension of disbelief isn't for Superman flying around the globe. It's for the entire image on screen.
These people in the chat are convinced that I'm like on a sock account in Jim's Discord spying on them. But hey, I'll tell you guys the truth. There's people in your Discord that sympathize with me and rat on you guys to me. So there you go.
Ooh, you got a spy network?
Yeah, I get that too.
Not really. Like, I think people just hear me talking about freedom and they can see my passion and they're on my side, and then they see that Jim and those crew are a bunch of, you know, bigots and Nazis. So they'll tell me information. I don't even ask for it.
Interesting. I'm glad that at least some globe believers are waking up to.
They're not all bad, you know.
No, but I mean, I'm glad that some of you guys are starting to wake up to just common decency and noticing that the other counterparts are just going too far and are starting to behave really, really badly, and that you shouldn't go there. I'm just glad that that's happening. It's good.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this show. And also a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.